We just heard from the U.S. Treasury. We disagree with Moody's shift to negative outlook. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that, but do you disagree?
Well, I think for markets, this is a big I told you so. Markets have been shaking the trees for months now, saying, we are much more concerned about debt deficit and the fiscal situation in the United States than we were before, really for the first time in about 40 years. But what they've gotten is pretty resounding silence from Washington, generally speaking. Politics as usual, it doesn't take that concern into account. And I think now you're going to be in a position where they're going to have to pay much more attention to it than they did before.
I, keep coming back to this CBO chart that they put out over the summer, which showed that by 2051, and we have the chart, the biggest line item in the U.S. budget is going to be paying off our interest more than all the entitlements, defense spending. How could the Treasury Department be comfortable with this?
I imagine they're not comfortable, but they are not in a position to be saying anything differently, frankly, and they've put themselves in that position. Secretary Yellen has been saying for weeks, months, even years, that markets shouldn't have to worry about any of this, that things are fine, despite even most recent evidence of increased borrowing costs. That will now be just for one bit of debt even bigger than the current expenditures of the United States government. So they're not going to be in a position to have to ignore this anymore. And frankly, I think that's going to start changing the debate in Washington into a way that starts talking about fiscal constraints.
I spoke earlier today with Congresswoman Victoria Spartz of Indiana, Republican, who says she will resign before the end of the year and leave her seat if a debt commission is not approved. We saw yesterday Mitt Romney and Joe Manchin come together with legislation to create a debt commission. Terry, do you roll your eyes? Do you say Simpsons, Bulls, Super Commission, call me back when it matters? Or is that what needs to happen?
I'm rolling eyes.
Okay.
The reason why I roll eyes, frankly, is because it is a responsibility of the elected representatives in Congress to make those decisions. A debt commission, frankly, only puts those decisions off. I dare say most of them hope that's exactly what happens, that the decision gets put off by the debt commission working on it, and then, hopefully things will be much more under control than they are right now. Although what you see is a world where they can't stop spending, deficit keeps going up, debt keeps going up, and now we have at least two crises on top of that we're trying to fund. And I refer to the Israel and Ukraine aid packages. So,
and if our viewers are just tuning in, we should remind them this is just breaking within the last hour. The United States credit rating outlook was changed to negative from stable from Moody's. And Terry, if you are getting this headline and press release in your inbox and you're Mike Johnson, is this a lot of more pressure for you to make sure you can keep the government open?
Yeah, I think so. I was just sitting here with you all right before airtime, and I had three immediate reactions. The first was, I think the likelihood of a shutdown probably decreases a little bit. I'd already had it at something like 60-40, so maybe let's take it to 70-30. The desire of members not to look heedless in the face of the markets and the rating agencies, I think, just got more important than it did before. I also think that you're going to have continued calls for increased defense spending. That's not going to change, and I think the aid package, frankly, takes longer than it did before, because they're going to have to figure out not only how to or what money to put in, but there will be increased pressure on how to pay for it than there was, say, a couple of hours ago.
Boy, there's a lot there for the new speaker to digest, but we're 7 days away, and there's no path here. If we can get back to the actual process involved, do you see a path for a continuing resolution to keep the government open a week from today, or do you leave here and write a note to clients that says market negative?
I am where I was, which is I think there's an extension of government spending for probably another couple of months.
Okay.
They're going to have to figure out exactly how to make this work. They have, in the House, have a very difficult time even putting new appropriations bills on the floor. So that what that argues for is something that happens after Christmas. Of course, they've not taken those arguments before, but we're still going to be talking about this at least at Christmas and probably a little bit afterwards.
Can't wait for that.
Won't it be great?
Yeah.
John Farrow, even though it's his weekend because he wakes up very early, he says that you have to ask him the question I've asked him before: is the U.S. government losing the unique privilege of acting recklessly?
Oh, absolutely. John has asked me that question before, and I answer it the same way I did then. Absolutely. And for the first time in 40 years, one thing I've said to markets and will say to you all is that there's only one politician in Washington that's been around long enough that remembers the last time markets reacted badly to a United States fiscal situation. That's Joe Biden. Joe Biden's not going to do anything because basically he's in hock to his free spending left. And the rest of them have never seen anything like this before. And so that actually all by itself increases the degree of difficulty in trying to fashion whatever solution is going to happen.
Does the 1% budget cut kick in come January because they won't have this figured out in time?
I think temporarily, yeah. That's likelier than not.
So we've got a new sequester to look for.
Yeah, and then what they'll do is they'll override it.
Right.
In the end, because because that's the way it goes.
But Terry, when you see these debates on Capitol Hill, they're about a small slice of our budget.
Right.
No one wants to touch defense.
Right.
No one's going to touch Social Security. No one's touching any of these entitlements.
Right.
Until they actually have a plan for the 60 to 75% of the budget, we're just going to keep going on this track.
Yes, we are.
So what should they do? If you say there's no point of Simpson Bowles.
Yeah. Well, there's no point because it's bucking responsibility.
Yeah, but how do you explain to the American people this is why we need to actually look at entitlements?
Well, they won't until after the 2024 election. I will give you the presidential debate earlier this week as a perfect example of this, right? There were a couple of touches on the need to kind of rein in debt deficit and fiscal. Nikki Haley did this, but then got right off of it, and almost as if you touched the stove, but not too hard.
Right.
There is no percentage in having a debate that they haven't prepared the American people for first going into an election year, and therefore none of them will do it.
Well, so does a re-elected Joe Biden, and we'll throw that hypothetical for the sake of this conversation out there, serve his country best by moving off of this position and, in fact, dealing with, as a lame duck president, once and for all, Social Security and Medicare?
Sure. I think absolutely, yes. He's also going to have to get a not lame duck Congress to have to deal with that, and that's where the rubber meets the road. The last time we had any move in that direction is going on 20 years ago now, when George W. Bush tried exactly the same thing, broadly speaking, and got absolutely nowhere in Congress, even with people that were broadly sympathetic to him. So, high degree of difficulty, no political capital on Biden's part to try to achieve anything at all. But at the same time, given your hypothetical, you could see Biden, weirdly making kind of common cause with the purist Republican right.
How about that?
That actually wants to do something about something.
And actually make a difference in
Yeah.
your second term?
Yeah, just when you thought things couldn't get any weirder.